the American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men have a right to equal justice under law and equal opportunity to share in the common good. We believe that all men have the right to freedom of thought and expression. We believe that all men are created equal because they are created in the image of God. From this faith, we will not be moved.
Hello, and welcome to the Freedom of Thought podcast. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Freedom of Thought is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, and I thank you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today, and encourage you to listen to this show on Spotify. Download it and listen to it on Spotify. It'll help the show grow, and a potential for, potential for the show to have some support in the future. So, with that said, it's Easter Sunday. I hope all of you are having a wonderful Easter, and I hope you don't see it as just a religious holiday or the secular holiday where it's bunny rabbits and candies and chocolates. Unfortunately, I like the candies and chocolates way more than I should. In fact, I'm not a healthy person because of the way I tend to have bad habits like that, eating candy and French fries and stuff like that, but a lot of us are guilty for that type of thing. I need to be better, and I'm sure, all of us might agree off and on with that topic. But that's not necessarily the main thing I called into about, or started the show about anyway here, mobile show once again. So like it feels like I'm saying I'm calling in because I am using my phone to do this episode once again. Again, I hope you are having a happy Easter, first and foremost. It's just crazy to think of how Easter is definitely a unique holiday, isn't it? It's unique how many stores actually close. Like, say, July 4th, a lot of places like Pancheros will be open. Pancheros and Chipotle and Byerly's and all them, it'll be open. At least some of them. Some of them it'll be closed, some of them it'll be open. It kind of is random, I guess. Certain pizza places and stuff, but on Easter, almost everything is closed. It's kind of surprising, except like the gas stations, the Walgreens and such, and certain restaurants. I think the bigger chain restaurants are usually open, but not all of them. So I always find that kind of interesting. It's a good thing in a lot of ways. Yet you have places like the airport that never close, and unfortunately, my wife works at a place like that. And what's really sad is people call in. Say, because obviously, it's Easter Sunday, a lot of people call in at the last second instead of just take it off ahead of time, which is like actually extremely rude. But on top of it, oftentimes it's people that don't even celebrate Easter, yet they're just taking it off to take it off, like just to kind of almost be like an ass. I don't know. It's really frustrating. It's almost like they're trying to make people that do celebrate Easter to come into work, and that's kind of mean and kind of rude, I think. I don't know. It feels like they're playing a game with people. You can probably guess which quote-unquote religion that those people are. You can probably guess. It's just kind of, again, read between the lines. Oftentimes, it's the kind of people that don't like to work a lot anyway. They just don't like to work. They're just kind of there to earn a check or to get paid, basically. Not earn it, but get paid a check for being there. And that's about it. Unfortunately, that's everywhere nowadays, where it's not necessarily a religion or a race or whatever. It just seems to be an attitude that's everywhere nowadays, where people just kind of come in, punch in, do hardly anything, walk around distracting people, distracting each other intentionally, doing as little work as possible, but maybe just enough to keep their job, because they know management's not even paying attention, and oftentimes they don't have the balls to say or do anything, and it's extremely frustrating. It's an insanely frustrating circle/cycle that has been developing the last several years, and it's really come to the forefront since 2020 on, where people just don't like to work. They just don't. They'll sure take the paycheck, but they don't want to actually do the work to earn the paycheck. And they're the same people at meetings that will moan and complain and yell about how they're underpaid. They're underpaid, and we should all make $1 an hour more each raise, instead of some of us get $1 and some get 15 cents and 30 cents and this and that. And it's like, just shut the heck up. Why don't you just go back to work? Seriously, just why is it always the least efficient people that do all the talking at meetings. So it's like naturally when it's a whole group of people in a factory, I don't want to hear everybody's opinion after a while, because I know it's usually the same loud people that hardly do anything, that are just making noise and not working anyway, that are going to, give their opinion because everybody has to hear it at every single meeting. There's a fine line between everyone should be heard to, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean literally everyone needs to be heard all the time. There's a fine line. Like, I speak when I actually have something to say, not just speak to be heard because it's all about me and it's all about my views and my opinions and me, and then they bring it into their group and they're this and they're that, which can get insanely frustrating to listen to. It's very divisive, to be quite honest. It's not a healthy way to go to work and to be at work. How I got into this, I'm not even sure, other than again, it all kind of roots to the people that would call in on a day like this when they don't even celebrate the holiday anyway. They don't even celebrate Easter. Maybe they'd call in on Christmas Day just to spite others that might, celebrate that day. Maybe they might have to get called in to come into work, which is so rude. It's literally, it just feels like a game they're playing. And I guess that's kind of how things go in this world. Again, the real meaning of Easter is the fact that Jesus has risen. And I apologize for going on a huge rant there just now. But I don't know. It's just the whole concept of people with that type of attitude. Like, you just know the game they're playing without them having to tell you. You can just read right through it. So naturally, it's going to be insanely frustrating to even think about the attitude. It's not the person necessarily. It's not the group. It's not this. It's not that. It's the attitude that matters. Conduct of character and all that type of stuff. But no, Jesus is risen, and that's what matters the most on Easter Sunday. Unfortunately, it's kind of getting cloudy around here, so it's kind of weird. Usually, I like to have a nice sunny sky, but at least the weather is dramatically warmer than it was just a couple of days ago, where the temperature dipped all the way down into the 20s during the morning hours and such, and rose up to maybe 31 degrees, 33 for a high. But this time of year, the sun is so strong, it'll still melt snow a little bit, depending on the circumstance and what's going on, but how much snow there is and all that. But spring has definitely sprung, and like I always said, and I talked about earlier in a very short episode, listening to kids out ice skating in a Golden Valley park. That one was Shaper Park, I believe it's called, closer to Byerly's, if you happen to live around this part of town, on Duluth Street, where right now I'm at the Hampshire Park on Olympia Street in Golden Valley. I don't know, should I give you the exact location? No, I'm kidding. by the time you're hearing this, I'm not going to be here, so at least I don't know. But yeah, at the same time, it's it's fun to enjoy the seasons. It always is, and Easter is a very special holiday that way, where it's like it's spring. If it wasn't, especially in this part of the world, where spring might take a little while to kind of get going, so to speak, where you're kind of stuck in like a longer winter, where it sort of felt like that this year a little bit. But it brings back many memories every spring. Like this spring, it started a little earlier. This spring it was still freezing cold. This year we got 18 inches in mid-April, which happened a couple times in, I believe, 2018. It happened at least once that year, and it might have happened the next year if I remember correctly. Or was it the year before? But it was kind of funny how everyone was furious and all that. But then within a week, it was all completely gone, but there was a lot of water. So like right now, I'm looking at a bit of a flood right now in the park. If you could see it, you'd be like, whoa. Yeah, it's pretty wet, lots of moisture, but you're going to kind of expect that, especially when the temperatures jump up as quickly as they did. But the fun of Easter, again, the great part is, again, the Lord is risen. That's what's number one and most important. And it's a great time for Easter to think that everything is kind of starting up again. Like you get to see the grass start to come up, the buds open and all that. So spring is a wonderful time of year for me and for many other people. So Easter just kind of has a charm to it. No matter what, it has a beautiful charm to it every year. And again, the most important part to remember is that the Lord has risen. So again, but I mean, at the same time, to be able to enjoy being outside and celebrate it in a sense that way quietly before you celebrate with your family. And of course, in a way, I'm kind of celebrating with you right now, the listeners of the Freedom of Thought podcast. And I'm kind of wandering around in the park right now, looking at looking at the water flowing around. It's interesting the way everything is kind of set up to hopefully prevent a flood, where it ultimately goes to the more natural pond from one little reservoir to the next. It's kind of interesting how everything works, coming from the hockey rink, which is completely flooded. Holy moly. It's like a lake. It's a lot of water. I mean, we're talking a lot. A lot of that was fire hose water at one point to get the rink to fill up. But, again, I could have... Pardon me, I almost coughed to death on myself here, but thank God for editing and all that. But, yeah, it's amazing how, I could have easily recorded a show here as well, watching kids skating around and how quickly all of that goes away. So it's always like, again, enjoy the seasons. What just flew? I think that was a duck. Yeah. Yep. Enjoy the seasons. Like we got to enjoy kids skating around. That did not last very long. Before you knew it, it was to a point where it was out of season because the sun was getting too strong and the ice was all bubbly and such, which happens usually every February because the sun starts to get a lot stronger with the way the earth is angled and such. And then next thing you know, gradually but surely, spring comes, and then here we are. Of course, I'm sure we'll get teased about I'm sure we'll get teased off and on how we're going to have a very warm week right now, but then next thing you know, who knows, it might be 40 degrees for like a week straight or something, which isn't exactly the greatest thing ever, but I guess at least it's above freezing, and that's about it. So, again, that's what's fun about Easter and all that. And of course, I get to Memorial Day and here comes summer gradually. And then next thing you know, it's July 4th and so on and so forth. Next thing you know, it's Halloween and Thanksgiving again. So obviously things are moving ever so quickly. Heck, and even in the Bible, it said that God will speed up time in a sense. So interesting. It sure feels like it's sped up, doesn't it? The way everything flies by. Like last night, the Golden Gopher hockey team lost the national championship game in extremely heartbreaking fashion, where 9 years ago they also lost the national championship game. That was the last time they'd been in it, and it feels almost like yesterday. But now I'm 43. At the time I was 34. The last time the Gophers won the national championship, it was exactly 20 years ago. I was 23 years old. It's just, you just think about all of that. 23 years old, and here I stand today, 43 already. You're telling me time ain't sped up? It sure feels sped up to me. So that's another thing to think about. Again, enjoy the seasons while they're here because they're moving pretty quickly. So this is almost like a part 2 of enjoy the seasons, whereas at the same time, celebrating Easter and what it really means. And, it's a special time for so many reasons. And I'm glad that people are able to have the day off. Very glad to know that people can have the day off and are not forced to work when, maybe they want to celebrate. Maybe they really do care and they don't just want it off because other people have it off. So that's a big thing as well. Just want to say again, happy Easter to everybody. The mailbag there's nothing new in the mailbag, which is totally fine. I'm going to try my best to keep up with the show as best possible during the course of time. That way I don't let the mailbag pile up real bad, and then I have to play catch up and all that. I'd rather keep up than where the information is more fresh as I'm doing the show. Thanks to this whole mobile idea that I started doing last summer. It's like, hey, this is not a bad idea. That way I don't have to be at home, indoors and all that, when I don't really want to be indoors, first and foremost. And at the same time, there might be somebody there that doesn't want me to record this show, this particular show. There's always a little bit of that. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep up with freedom of thought as best possible. Again, encourage you to use the Spotify app if you can, but if you prefer Apple Podcasts or anything else, that's totally fine. But it's just a way to help the show out. The chances of this show ever getting to the criteria they're looking for is probably slim at this stage, but I suppose you never know. The show may grow enough, and if it does, can't thank you enough in advance if that day ever comes, but it might help if I record more often for that to take place. But again, just wishing you a happy Easter, and hopefully, again, things will head in a better direction, more of a Christian revival in this country compared to what we've had especially the past 3 years, but even the last 50 years. It has been on a downturn that has sped up in a big way, a very, very big way, to say the least. The last 3 years have been like on full-on like sprint, like warp speed to, perdition is basically where things have been going. I could go on all day with that, but for now I won't. Again, I'll say it for the 70th time on this episode. Happy Easter, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.